So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Oh, first I want to say thank you to our gold and our platinum members. We're so appreciative to all of our members, but it's because of all of you that we can do webinars like this, that we can share resources with our networks that help really make alternative transportation energy more accessible throughout our state. So your partnership and your support means so much. Also to our gold members. And then also, if you all would like to see all of our membership levels, including our 4 new membership levels, please go ahead and see that here. So we're talking about biodiesel today. And what is biodiesel? We have a definition here on the screen, recognizing that this is a fuel resource that is made from diverse natural resources. It's exciting because it's domestically produced and it's commercially available and it's easy to implement. And these are all things that we're going to talk about as we get into our panel discussion. But I'm sure you all have questions and we're excited to get those answered. But also thank you to Clean Fuels Alliance America. We have Jeff on our panel today. We're appreciative to all of our biodiesel partners as we work towards making Ohio powered by clean transportation energy. So I'm going to go ahead and read the bios of our partners. We're so excited to have everybody here today. First, we have Madison Layman. She's here as part of the Ohio Soybean Council. Madison works on their team in demand and market development, but she also has a background in communications and marketing. She's done a lot of really important work by amplifying and advancing information as it relates to biodiesel in our state. But she also works with farmers and ensuring that they are sustainable long-term as they look to champion biodiesel through through agriculture. We also have Jeff Earl here, and he's from Clean Fuels Alliance America. And he serves us all the way in Jefferson City, Missouri. So thank you, Jeff, for being here virtually with us today. But Jeff works as the Director of State and Regulatory Affairs. And he comes more from the legislator side, where he works with regulatory bodies and environmental organizations to champion biodiesel at the policy level. Next, we have Page Thorson. She's the co-founder of Benchmark Biodiesel, and she also is a board member for Clean Fuels Ohio, so she's very important to us. She started Benchmark Biodiesel with her husband because they recognized a need for biodiesel blending and infrastructure in Ohio. This is great because while we want to champion clean transportation and energy in Ohio, we want to also make sure we're supporting our economic development in the state. She is also responsible for managing relationships with partners in different sectors and developing strategies to advance the business and promote the use of biodiesel in Ohio. Last but not least, we have Kelly Reagan, and he serves as the fleet administrator at the City of Columbus, and he's been there since 2007. This is really exciting because Kelly has done a lot of really important work in transitioning the city's fleet to clean transportation and energy, including championing biodiesel, which they started doing in, I believe, 2008. And in 2020, they went to full B20 biodiesel for biodiesel powered vehicles. And we'll get to hear more about that in our discussion today as well. Kelly was actually recognized as a fleet manager member in their Hall of Fame in 2015. And he also is recognized as the Public Sector Fleet Manager of the Year in 2016. And he was instrumental in getting the city to be number one in the number one public sector leading fleet in 2016. So we have a great group of panelists today, and I hope you all are just as excited as I am to get started. So now our wonderful panelists, if you would like to turn your cameras on and mics on, we'll go ahead and get the conversation started. So I'm just going to go ahead here. I have some questions. We're going to make sure to save some time for Q&A. But please, we want this to be very conversational. So I might start off with Madison today. But if anyone else wants to jump in, please, I encourage you to do so. So our first question is, Can you tell us a little bit more about biodiesel? What makes it unique in comparison to other biofuels? How is it manufactured? How is it stored? What are some technical things that our audience should be thinking about?
Thanks, Lexi, and thanks for having me on here today and for this panel. I'll be honest, I'm not the complete technical person in this realm. I think Jeff definitely lives more the biofuels life, but as a member or staff member of the Ohio Soybean Association, it's one of my responsibilities here on staff is to promote biodiesel and biodiesel usage here in the state of Ohio and nationally. I can kind of give a little background on biodiesel and kind of where it started. So it's actually a fuel made or originated by an idea from farmers or from the soybean checkoff. So it was in like the early 1990s. So again, I can't speak too highly on this because I was not yet born in the early 1990s. But like I said, it was created by the soybean checkoff because there's an excess amount of soybean oil. Soybeans were pretty much a crop used for crush, and the meal part was used for animal agriculture, and then the oil part was used in some soy food or food oil, vegetable oil, but that just didn't fill the entire market. So the idea was to explore a new market for diesel, for fuels, and that's kind of where biodiesel was born out of. It was born out of the idea that we have this excess market. What can we do, and how can we develop some kind of new fuel for that burns cleaner and is better for the environment? So it took off from there, and then here we are nearly 30 years later, and we're kind of expecting roughly a 6 billion gallon market by 2030. So I guess that's kind of better in the background. Again, I think Paige and Jeff might be able to touch a little bit more on the manufacturing, kind of like the more technical stuff on it, but we're here to kind of just promote it and let fleets and let everyone know that it's an option, because farmers created it and we'd love to see it support the industry a little bit further.
Thank you so much, Madison. And Paige, can you talk a little bit about, why is it important that Ohio had a manufacturing site here, and what are some hurdles that you had to overcome to make that happen? I think you might need to unmute, Paige. Is it unmuting? Oh, there. Oh, let's see.
There I am.
Oh,
good now?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about why and how we started our business in Ohio. So we started our business in 2007, and that was when biodiesel wasn't brand new, but still pretty new and still pretty much made. There was one big plant in Cincinnati at the time, but a lot of the people that we dealt with in our early years in Ohio were farmers. As Madison said, I don't think people realized that there was this glut of soybean oil sitting after the beans were crushed and sent out to be feed, that they had all this oil, and they were really seriously started to see a problem. Like, what are we going to do with all this oil? It's going to have to go somewhere. So we weren't in the very, very first stages. I'd say we were like in the second stages where biodiesel was being produced. Some of them were farmers not far from us, half hour away, who grew soybeans, crushed them, and made the biodiesel right on their own farms. That's changed lately, where it has become more of a bigger business, not so much a smaller type of operation like that. But in the beginning, it was. So our business actually was formed in order to create a distribution point for biodiesel, because there was biodiesel and then there was, the fleets, but it has to be blended in order to use it in this colder climate in Ohio. So we saw a need for a blending and distribution center in central Ohio where we could get it all over the state, and handle it correctly, which I can talk about later. But we started for that reason. So we took an old fuel terminal that had been out to brownfield and spent about a year doing a lot of reconstruction and reconnecting a diesel pipeline. And then we started bringing in biodiesel and having tanks that could heat it and blend it at a high speed. So we've had really good success with our biodiesel blending and handling, which I think is like step 2 of biodiesel. Biodiesel has to be made correctly, and then step 2, it has to be handled correctly. And if those 2 things are done, it's super successful in a fleet and no issues and no clogging or anything else. I'm not sure that answered your question, Lexi. Did you want me to talk more about something else specific?
No, that was great. And that was really great. I just wanted to have some, technical foundation to get us started. But Jeff, I think my next question is for you. I've done a little bit of research on biodiesel and, throughout the month. And one of the things that I've noticed is that, it's a really great option for really quick implementation because a lot of engines that operate already on diesel can easily transition to biodiesel. Are there any other major benefits that you think we should share with the group today?
Yeah, thanks, Lexi. Thanks for having me on today. Look forward to the discussion. Yeah, we always talk here at Clean Fuels that biodiesel is a drop-in replacement. So any diesel engine out there today, whether it's in your truck or on your tractor, can use biodiesel. And our technical team works very closely with all the OEMs to continue to help educate them and to push them to approve higher blends of biodiesel. And the reason I think it's a benefit to those who want to use biodiesel is the increased cetane and lubricity that it offers. So it's better for your engine. You're going to get a longer use out of that engine. You're going to be burning a cleaner fuel, which obviously is going to be good for the environment. So it's a great fuel to be putting through your engine. There's a lot of just benefits just from the product itself and running it, and also the environmental and decarbonization benefits you also receive.
Thank you, Jeff. And I know that there are also a lot of different types of biodiesel. And from the research that I've been doing is that, they range in different benefits. And at a certain level, at certain standards, fleets that implement biodiesel or transition their fleet to biodiesel are eligible to receive credits. I think it was the U.S. Department of Energy passed legislation in 1992 around that. Is that something you can speak to a little bit?
Yeah, maybe a little. Federal policy is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but yeah, there's a lot of incentives both on the federal and state level to help promote the use of these fuels, and so we have a lot of federal programs that incentivize the use of it, and those credits and those incentives can be passed along to people who are purchasing the biodiesel to help meet certain obligations if they're an obligated party, things of that nature. So there definitely is a financial incentive to use it, and it's been a huge success. We talk about, I think, a little bit even before we all got on here, the RFS, which is the federal program. We have federal tax credits that also help with blending, incentivizing the blending of the fuel, and those credits that can be used to help offset costs and things of that nature to make biodiesel a really worthwhile fuel to be using. So we're seeing a lot of that activity all across the country, and mainly in my space on the state level. A lot of states, especially in the Midwest, are looking to try and incentivize and promote more biodiesel use. As Paige and Maddie touched on, that our history started with farmers, and they're our backbone of our industry. They grow the soybeans that then turn into the oil that is used in the biodiesel. And so this industry adds a lot of value back to that industry, and promotes energy independence, energy security, things of that nature, while also meeting environmental goals. So there's a lot of policies out there that are looking to promote this fuel and help meet decarbonization and other environmental goals.
Yeah, I would just add to that we have found over the course of the last 15 years that, with a few exceptions, for the most part, when you add in, there's a dollar tax credit at the federal level, there's the RIN value, which takes a little bit off the cost to the end user for biodiesel, if you can look at it that way. It really keeps biodiesel at the same cost or less than diesel 90% of the time. We've had a few instances where it will go above. The price of soybean oil is really, really up. But overall, these credits are very helpful because a consumer can use biodiesel exactly the same as diesel without any negatives, without a higher cost, without having, if it's handled correctly and all that, without having any issues with their engines and that type of thing. So we found that the tax credits have been very, very valuable to the industry. Now, Jeff, I know like you do a lot of state regulatory. We in Ohio don't have an incentive or a credit at this point. Hopefully that we will someday. But I know a lot of our neighbors are starting, Pennsylvania and some of our neighbors right around us in Ohio are starting to get incentives and credits. So at some point, hopefully that will reach us too.
No, thank you for bringing that up, Paige, because, at Clean Fuels, we also want to help support all of our partners and advance these alternative fuel types through our policy work as well. So I'm sure between, this group on the call, we'll make sure to continue that conversation internally and, with all of you. But, there's so many things I want to talk about. So I really kind of want to switch over to Kelly because, Kelly, you're here with representing the City of Columbus Fleet. And I want you to kind of talk about your transition to different types of biodiesel, how you got that to happen internally with the city, and the benefits that you guys have been experiencing.
Thank you for having me, Lexi. And as I listen to our speakers, Page and Wade Thorson have been great partners for the City of Columbus. We've learned a lot about biodiesel since we started burning it. We've gone from B5, now we run B20 in most everything. And we've done that with the good counsel, the Thorsons, who have helped us to migrate into B20. And just let me give you some global perspective on the City of Columbus. We manage about 6,500 units, and we started biodiesel in 2008. It's important to understand that before starting up biodiesel, one must clean the tank before you start biodiesel, because bio is an organic material, and it has to start clean. And in 2020, we moved to straight B20 on most everything. If you run any heavy duty engines like the DD13 or the Detroit, the warranty on that engine is to B5. So that would be put in something like a tiller or what we call a hook and a ladder. So we don't run anything higher than B5, and that's simply because it would void the warranty on the engine should something happen with it. That's the only engine that I'm aware of in the entire fleet with 6,500 units in stock that we manage. And so let me just give you some global perspective on our numbers. 6,200 in fleet, 3,200 on road. In 2010, we burnt 3.5 million gallons of petroleum fuel. Last year, we burnt 2.1 million gallons of petroleum fuel. That's a reduction of almost 38% of petroleum fuel. Biodiesel plays a big role in helping us reduce that and continue to reduce our consumption on petroleum-based fuels, because of course the bio is not a fossil fuel and it offsets the fossil fuel. So we ran 2.147 million gallons of fuel last year, and we run biodiesel. The only thing we stay away from in biodiesel are things like generators. It's commonly known that if you're using biodiesel, you should be burning through it within about 6 to 7 months. And if not, you should be turning that biodiesel over. So in some smaller equipment like generators that may sit for a long time until a major storm comes along, we will put straight diesel into it and not use any bio. But the majority of the fleet, I would say 98% of the fleet is using biodiesel. But again, it is one of a number of technologies that we use in the City of Columbus to help be sustainable and reduce our carbon footprint. And I will share with you, the Thorsons are incredibly underrated. Understated is what I meant to say. They are blenders in the marketplace, not marketers. and there's a big difference. So we've learned over the years. And the good thing about Wade and Page is that a blender mixes on site and retains that fuel, unlike a marketer. There are a number of companies that will go out and look for the cheapest fuel they can find and deliver it to you. Well, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's good. More than likely, it means that you could be setting yourself up for moisture problems in the future when it gets colder, a number of issues. And I think the fact that the Thorsons pride themselves on a double pasteurization process with their soy makes the fuel even cleaner. So the spec needs to be written very tightly in a way that you're dealing and or purchasing from a blender and not a marketer. And the beauty of running biodiesel is, again, it is one of probably 4 or 5 technologies that we use in our fleet to reduce our carbon footprint.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And your passion for what you do is so evident in how you tell us about, this work and your partnership with Page. Page, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, for all those kind words. I wanted to say that City of Columbus is very progressive for a city, any city fleet, really. And they were doing this before anyone else, really, and have moved, consistently toward, the least emissions possible in their whole fleet. And they're a perfect example to me of what we call ourselves a lot is a drop-in fuel, which means you don't have to make any kind of modifications to a truck to use it. But I also say to people now, think of it like a transitional fuel. And I think of the City of Columbus this way. We're not the only technology they use. They also are doing CNG, they'll use electric, they're doing different things. And I think a lot of fleets will hold back from that and just go, well, it's okay because we're going to be electric in 10 years or 15 years. And we offer that that's fine, but why not transition right now, save emissions today instead of putting it all off till 15 years from now. So I just really appreciate what the City of Columbus has done. They've really been taking great leadership, and we're able to use them as an example to other fleets to say, they took the step forward and went to 20% biodiesel, even in their fire trucks. And we really appreciate that. And I wanted to say one thing about, I agree with Kelly on the generator. There is one application used for generators that we found to be tremendous. We only do a few of them, but there are mines that have switched to 80% biodiesel or even higher that run at their generator because it doesn't sit, like as Kelly was describing, waiting for an emergency. They use it every day in the mines, and they've found a huge reduction in their lung disease by using a high blend of biodiesel in the mine. So that is one use that I think is unusual, but I wanted to bring it up because it's a pretty cool thing to see that using an organic material like this makes a difference in people's health.
Absolutely. And I think, 2 thoughts from everything that you just shared with us, Paige. One, Clean Fuels Ohio, we're a statewide organization. And we are so proud of what Kelly is doing with the city. But we also know that we have really great relationships with other cities in our state. And we know that there is desire to be a part of this work. So if you are from a city and you're listening today, or you're watching the recording sometime in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We would love to connect you with Kelly, to connect you with Paige and Jeff and Madison, and really help you along in this process, because it is tricky if it's new. But we have colleagues in the space that are experienced, and they know how to help you along in the process. Additionally, with our fleet analysis staff on board, we can also help, with that return on an investment analysis and help with some of those first steps as well. But thank you so much, Paige. And also, we have a lot of awesome alternative transportation energy organizations in our state. And at Clean Fuels Ohio, we understand that we do need to, again, celebrate all clean energy types as we work towards a more sustainable future. So thank you for that reminder, Kelly and Paige. The openness to work together with other, colleagues in different energy areas. I think that's really important because we have a lot of work to do. We've done a lot. That's what we're celebrating today, but there's more to come in the future. So thank you. Kelly, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lexi. And if you're not a member of Clean Fuels Ohio, you should become a member of Clean Fuels Ohio. Tremendous organization that's fuel agnostic. So what that means to people like me and Fleet is that we can diversify through sustainability. We're not just being coached on biodiesel. We're being coached on electrification, compressed natural gas, propane, and anything that is possible for fuel. So they're being agnostic helps people like us that are running a multi-pronged sustainability program. And to get the kinds of numbers that we've experienced with a 38% reduction in petroleum fuels, it's not just one solution, it's a number of solutions. And so if you don't belong to Clean Fuels Ohio, I would say this is my shameless pitch, and I don't give me anything for it, Paige. They don't, not a dime. But we have been a member of Clean Fuels Ohio since 2008, and we've worked with them hand in hand. They've helped us through our electrification program, through our CNG program, through our propane program, and through our biodiesel program. If you're not a member, join, because they have a lot of critical resources that can help you analyze and look at what are the best solutions for you in your fleet.
Well, Kelly, I was going to say, full disclaimer, I did not pay the city for that advertisement, but thank you, Kelly, really for the kind words. You know, this work means a lot to us, and to hear that recognition from you it's so meaningful. I do have two questions I really want to get to before we get to Q&A. But in the meantime, please, audience, put more questions in the chat. I really encourage you to do that. We know that there are a lot of players when it comes to biodiesel. And we briefly talked about farmers already. But Madison, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what you guys do to support farmers in this work and help with, I know from, you know, what we know from working with you, you work to support their prosperity as they continue to support biodiesel as a viable energy option. Can you talk a little bit about how you support them and why it is so critical to the future of biodiesel?
Yeah, happy to. For those who are on the call and aren't familiar with the Ohio Soybean Council, we are the state's soybean checkoff organization, meaning that we manage checkoff dollars that come from the check of each bushel of soybeans that's sold here in Ohio. So the way our checkoff works is we take 1/2 of 1% of the bushel price of soybeans. Half of that stays in state to invest in in-state stuff. Half of it goes to our national checkoff, the United Soybean Board. So we are ultimately governed by a board of anywhere from 15 to 16 farmer board members that decide on projects that will ultimately profit Ohio soybean farmers. So we invest in new markets such as the biodiesel market. As I mentioned before, this is obviously created by a soybean checkoff by soybean farmers to find this new market, and it's just blossomed over the last 30 years. In Ohio, we ranked 5th in soybean production this past year. We were always within the top 10, so we have a really strong background, a lot of 25,000 soybean farmers here in Ohio to support. Working with biodiesel, working with Clean Fuels Alliance America, with Page, with Clean Fuels Ohio, we are able to educate fleets and the public on the benefits of biodiesel. So a couple of our projects, like I said, education. We also help fund research around, again, benefits. So like how it increases air quality around major cities, how it reduces greenhouse gas emissions, how we can even get a byproduct off the original manufacturing of biodiesel. So you get, I guess I didn't explain this earlier, but you get 2 products in the transesterification of biodiesel. You get the methyl esters and the glycerin. Methyl ester is what's used for the biodiesel. Glycerin is what's used as a green source for other everyday products like cosmetics, soaps, all of that. So I like to always say farmers have been doing sustainable practices for years, not only to sustain the longevity of their farm, but to sustain like to sustain the environment, to keep greenhouse gases at a minimum, to really enhance the environment around them. And this is just another way that they're doing it, by investing in these projects that promote biodiesel and clean fuels, and just really try to find those new fuel alternatives that is available now and available to fleets. So ultimately, I think you're on staff, and what our farmers find most important is that we're just always promoting it, that we're letting people know that this is available right now. This is what fleets have as an option to achieve those sustainability goals that have been popping up left and right over the last 5-10 years. Consumers are requesting more sustainable products, and that not only is the product itself, but it comes from the supply chain, and biodiesel is here now to support that.
Thank you so much, Madison. That was really awesome information, and we're so thankful for the work that you do. It's meaningful for our state, and we're grateful to be a partner in that. Jeff, I do have a question for you. So at Clean Fuels Alliance America, your clean fuels organization, since our names are so similar, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do and to support biodiesel? And I believe you're more at the national level, so it's obviously going to be different than what we're able to do here at Clean Fuels Ohio.
Yeah, we're the National Trade Association headquarters here in Jefferson City, where we started, as Maddie alluded to. The farmers were the ones who started us 30 years ago through their checkoff dollars, funding research to use this leftover oil, and Missouri soybean, Ohio soybean, a few other soybeans helped fund that research that really started our organization, which we were originally known as the National Soy Diesel board way back 30 years ago. But yeah, our industry, we represent the biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel, which I know is getting a lot of talk and headlines these days. But we are the leading voice in advocacy, technical, sustainability. We do a lot of research in these areas. I know my technical director, Scott Fenwick, is on here today, who has probably some of the most knowledge on this industry. He's been in this world for many, many years, on both sides of the renewable side and the petroleum side. Just great knowledge there. And so these are the kind of folks that we use to help promote this industry. Right now, we're at about 3 billion gallon industry, and as Maddie alluded to earlier, we hope to get to 6 billion gallons by 2030. And we're only going to be able to do this by utilizing the feedstocks that we have here available in the United States, like soybean oil, but also using other feedstocks like animal fats and corn oil, canola, things like that. So these things are going to allow us to continue to grow. Madison and Page both kind of already hit our tagline earlier. We're better, cleaner, and we're available now. This is something that we always preach to folks who are looking to decarbonize. We are that immediate carbon reduction that's available right now. And as other technologies come on board and become more viable, those things are things we're always welcome to. But using biodiesel now helps meet those carbon reduction goals, and so we're not having to reduce those in the future. Why not take the steps now to start reducing your carbon footprint? Utilize a fuel that's grown here in our country that also adds value back to some great industries like agriculture.
Thank you, Jeff. Again, we appreciate all the work that you're doing at the national level to help, advance biodiesel in the energy sector. I do have another question. So obviously Jeff, you just mentioned some goals that you guys have in the industry. But this is more of a question for all of you. What do you see as the future for biodiesel in its use, in consideration? And do you have any, if you could talk to our policy leaders, and I know, Jeff, you do this at the state level, but also at the federal level, what are some things that you would like push at a policy level, or so that we can make sure that this work is continuing to be championed?
Our biggest message to policymakers is to continue to allow biodiesel a seat at the table as they start implementing and crafting policies to help meet, ESG goals, carbon goals, things of that nature. As I mentioned just previously, we're available right now. We're here. We're able to step up to the plate. If you look in California in the LCFS, the low carbon fuel standard. That policy was implemented and passed in a decade or so ago. I don't really know, but this whole goal was to spur electrification in that state. And if you look at the data right now, biodiesel, renewable diesel make up nearly half of the credits generated in that policy. So it shows that when biodiesel, renewable diesel, our fuels are able to have a seat at the table, we can be successful. And so my biggest message to policymakers of all sides is to continue to think of biodiesel as a partner in meeting their environmental goals and also their energy independence goals. So we're, I talk to both sides of the aisle. We have a message for both sides. We add value back to agriculture. We provide energy independence, but we're also able to make those and exceed those carbon and environmental goals that they set. So that's my biggest message to policymakers. To allow them to see what we've been able to do in our short 30 years that we've been here as an industry, and also if you look at where we're going, the growth is phenomenal. We're seeing crush expansion all across the country, mainly in the Midwest. We're seeing fuels like sustainable aviation fuels starting to come online. Renewable diesel, which is another type of renewable fuel that we work on that also uses soybean oil, and this production is growing all over the place. It's also a drop-in replacement, just like biodiesel. And so as we start talking about carbon and other types of goals, we're available now. We're better, we're cleaner, and we just want to make sure that we have a seat at the table.
Absolutely. Madison, do you want to add anything to that? I just want to make sure you were unmiked. And really, Jeff, we spoke briefly before the panel started today, and I think it is concerning that any of our policy leaders would think not to include you at the table, would not bring up biodiesel into these conversations. And again, I hope that is something that internally at Clean Fuels we continue to talk more about and actually work towards. So these conversations will continue, and we want to make sure that we are advocating for biodiesel just like every other viable clean transportation fuel option. So thank you for that reminder. So I'm going to just go ahead and see if my next question on the list, we're going through these so efficiently. Is there any, with a lot of the alternative energy that we're advocating for at Clean Fuels, there's a lot of infrastructure investment. There are, some barriers to transitioning fleets. And we talked about biodiesel just being a quick implementer. But Kelly, is there anything that you guys at the City of Columbus had to consider when you decided to make this transition?
Thank you, Lexi. Yes, we did need to consider how we were going to change all of the tanks over. We had to look at the warranties. Back in 2008, there were uncertainties about where the OEM stopped or started, and would the OEM cover or warrant anything if something happened with an engine if you're using B5. And so now you see with all of the language from the OEMs, you see that they'll warrant a vehicle that uses as high as B20, with the exception of what I had stated earlier, the DD13 or the Detroit engine. That manufacturer suggests in their warranty that if you use anything greater than B5, they will not warrant it if there is any sort of engine failure. So that's important to know, especially if you've got a lot of vehicles and you're counting on you want to maintain compliance with the OEM, and then all of the tanks that you've got. It's not you've really the tanks have to be cleaned and and you should be cleaning your tanks anyway on a fairly regular basis, but the tank should be cleaned before you can add biodiesel. And then that way you're going to reduce the growth of the organic material that would be clinging to the sidewalls of the fuel tank. And I can't speak about it really intelligently, not like Page or Wade could, because they do this professionally all the time. And again, this is one of the number of fuels that we use. But clean all the tanks. Make sure your OEM warranty is good for up to B20. And if it's not, know what it is. And if it's not addressed, have a conversation with the OEM of your program and where you're headed, whether it's B5 or B20, and work closely with your vendor, whoever it is, to accommodate colder weather. And so whenever we're working into, let's say, October, November, the Thorsons are on the phone with us, and we're talking about shifting over 30 to 40 tanks, and we'll be adding additives. We don't. The Thorsons do all that, and they add additives so that when it gets cold, we reduce the possibility of having any issues. And I have to share with you, for the last couple years, we have gone to a straight B20, and we were coached by Wade and Page that we could do that safely by using a certain additive, and we've done it like Page said, even in our fire trucks, our police Bearcats, anything and everything that takes diesel, we are using B20 regardless of the temperature, and it's working very well for us.
That's great. And I think, Holly, what I really wanted to emphasize there is that, there are some investments, there are things that need to be considered, but it's nothing substantial. This is an easy transition for fleets to make with the right guidance and with clear guidance and the right partners.
Right.
So thank you so much for that.
Hey, Lex, can I just jump in real quick?
Yes, please.
I think Kelly makes a lot of good points about, the handling of the fuel. I think sometimes that's been a misconception that we've had to deal with here at the Clean Fuels is, they think they can just use biodiesel and just not think about it. It's still fuel. It still needs to be handled correctly, needs to be treated correctly. But also when we're talking about OEMs, I don't know the terminology that Kelly was talking about warrants, but I know most OEMs approve up to a 20% blend of biodiesel, and it's my understanding that no fuel is covered by any OEM warranty. I think there's a federal law, the Magnuson-Moss Warrant Act, that passed I don't know how many years ago, but using biodiesel should not jeopardize any engine warranty, because I think most OEMs will say that's outside of their purview. They will warrant anything that's part of the engine as far as the nuts and bolts and things like that. But using biodiesel should not be any concern with a warranty stand front. But we work with our OEMs continuously to kind of push them, and we do studies with them on our technical side to continue to help promote higher blends. And so what we've seen over the years, as Kelly kind of mentioned, that started around the B5 was the level they approved. Now they're at B20. We're even in conversations with some OEMs that are looking to approve up to B50 these days. So I think it's just a tremendous success that we can talk about because of folks like Page and her organization and how they are able to provide such a great product to their customers that OEMs are becoming more comfortable with using higher blends. And so it's just shows that there's continued growth and great excitement around our industry with using higher blends of biodiesel and using those higher blends at different points of the year. I know there was a lot of concern about using B20 in colder months, but now we're seeing more and more. It sounds like Kelly's using it in fire trucks year round, which is just tremendous to hear, and such a great success story that they're able to do so. So keep up all the great work.
No, that's so great. And so many thoughts. Ohio is such a we have a great innovative state when it comes to transportation. And a lot of people can often, in our industry and in my experience, can think of our weather as a detriment. but I think it is a great benefit when it comes to testing, innovative modes of mobility and innovative forms of clean transportation energy. It's a great asset that we do have weather that we can actually test out and implement, in various seasons. I think it's great. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Jeff, you were talking about, B20, B50. We have Stephen in the chat who's asking about B100. That sounds like quite a jump. And he's wondering about, its availability in Ohio. And I don't even know if I've been able to find a lot of information about B100. So looking forward to your thoughts.
Well, I'm sure Page and Wade Thorson will be happy to sell you B100. We work closely with one of our partners. They're really growing fast, but Optimus Technology is based out of Pennsylvania. They have technology that is a bolt-on application to your diesel engines that can utilize B100. You're going to ask if there's technical questions. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone here, but essentially the truck, the engine will start up using regular diesel, but once the engine is warmed, it will then switch over to pure B100, and it can run on that for as long as there's fuel in there. Yep, Optimus Technology. Oh, he's with Optimus Technology, so why don't we let him talk about his own organization? But they're members of ours. They're, I think they've been members for a couple years now, and just some great success stories coming from Optimus Technologies and utilizing B100. And I'm sure Stephen and others in Ohio who are wanting to go bolder, go bigger, I'm sure Steve will be happy to drop his contact information and get you guys in contact with them to start using that technology, because it's great stuff. So I'm glad he's on this call to help answer any of the questions that I can and talk a little bit more about what Optimus is doing.
Yeah, I want to add to that Optimus, we've met with them. They're a great company, and they can take an existing engine and convert it with heat that will let you run B100. So we can definitely sell B100. And we do. I think we've got it going to a rail station this week. So we do sell B100 to certain applications. And a new one for us recently has been manufacturing. Sometimes it's being used in manufacturing processes that they didn't know that this was an option. So that's been kind of cool that they've been able to use that. The thing with B100 is that it's great and it can be used in the summer. Well, like Kelly said, they have some concern about their OEMs with their big equipment, so that's a concern. And also, it's turning over these tanks. In Ohio, like if you're in Texas or Florida, I imagine you can do that all year long if you want to. But up here in Ohio, we're going to have to face the cold around October, November. So we don't want anybody sitting with B100 in a tank or in their equipment when the weather starts to be cold enough that it's going to be an issue. So, our little formula for success with biodiesel has been to use distilled biodiesel, so that actually all the glycerin is, like Maddie brought up earlier, all of the glycerin is taken out of the biodiesel before we get it. So that works very, very well in cold weather. And then we've been able to build a certain kind of a blending at it's called ratio blending. It's a high speed blending process that we also inject additive as it's blending. So we've been able to come up with a very great emulsified product that can last all winter and run at 20%, no problem. So we love the idea of B100. We've had some calls. This is just a fun story to add. We had Neil Young call, his manager called our office a couple years ago, and he was going to be performing down in Cincinnati. And he said he doesn't want any petroleum to touch any of his buses, his tour buses. No petroleum can touch it. And we said, okay, but this was like late summer. We said, where's he going next? Like, not to Canada or something, right? Because we can give him B100, but we don't want him calling us from, Montana 2 months from now. Anyway, they said, we take total responsibility. We're good. We're going to go through this in no time. And they went city to city doing this. So sure enough, we did. We took our driver went down and filled all the tour buses with B100, and they drove off just fine. So it's very doable. It's just a matter of, OEMs, comfort levels, and weather. Those are the three things.
Right. And that's so wild. And I know Stephen in the chat added that he knows several municipal snowplows running in cold weather off of B100. So I think it's great to know that there is diversity within biodiesel. It's something that before joining this awesome team at Clean Fuels and getting to know all of you that I didn't even know. So thank you for sharing all the information. And Stephen, yeah, we can't have you join the call, but I actually talked with Lori this morning, your colleague. So it's so funny that we're talking about Optimus today. But just really great information from all of you this afternoon. And before we wrap up and let everyone return to their workday, I want to ask you all if you have any closing remarks that you would like to share. And keeping in mind that at Clean Fuels, we have a bunch of different partners on the call right now, and those that will be watching in the future from different sectors and industries. So any last minute remarks for them?
I'll just start first, and thanks again for allowing us to come on here and talk about this great industry. For those, my panelists who are doing such great work in biodiesel, love to hear your success stories. Love to have you guys as members as well of Clean Fuels. I think there'd be a lot of benefit in joining us on, especially as we continue to advance on the technical and sustainable side. But love to have further conversations about what we can do to promote biodiesel in the state of Ohio. I know there's been discussions on different policies over the years, but would love to really work with my fellow panelists and anyone else on the call to see what we can do to continue to promote biodiesel and its benefits in the state. But thanks again for having us today.
Yeah, Lexi, just to add to that, I really appreciate you featuring biodiesel this month. The Soybean Council has been featuring it. Well, it's biodiesel month, so it's been exciting to be talking about it so much. And I just want to say that the work that Clean Fuels Ohio has done with our organization over the last 15 years has been tremendous in connecting us with fleets that are looking to transition and, many different fuels, and one of them being biodiesel. So we really appreciate your help with all of that. Our membership has been well worth it.
Thank you, Paige, and thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. Kelly, did you want to jump in?
I did, Lexi. I just wanted to say that there are a lot of different solutions for folks, and I think the key is working with technologies that will support your fleet. Not everything is right for everyone, but there are some really simple things that can be done, like biodiesel. Of all of the technologies that we've implemented, I would say biodiesel has probably been the easiest for us to implement. And most certainly, seek good counsel from your vendor on when to use additives, when to shift over, what type of equipment to use, B5, B15, B20. And again, if you're not plugged into Clean Fuels Ohio, please do so. Become a member of Clean Fuels Ohio, because they're fuel agnostic and they'll look at your fleet from a holistic standpoint and look at the opportunities that exist in your fleet to migrate to different sorts of fuels, whether it's compressed natural gas, propane, biodiesel, ethanol, hydrogen, electrification, whatever the technology is that you'd like to implement in your fleet. And the way that we've reduced our petroleum consumption almost 38% over 12 years, it comes 1 gallon at a time. I always tell folks, how to eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So for every gallon that we reduce our petroleum, it just helps helps us meet our GHG emission reductions for the city of Columbus.
That is just incredible, and I'm sure all my colleagues on the line are smiling with their cameras off. We appreciate all of these kind words so much. Thank you all. Go ahead, Maddie.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up by saying thanks for hosting this. Thanks for featuring biodiesel this month. I think it's one of the proudest things farmers have contributed to the fuel industry. We agree wholeheartedly that there's a lot of different options out there, but anything to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions, take the first step. If you want to start it tomorrow, biodiesel is available tomorrow, especially for those larger fleets. So again, thanks for hosting this today. I think this was a lot of great information for everyone, and anyone listening, most people, everyone on this panel is great to reach out to. Reach out to Lexi, reach out to Clean Fuels Alliance America, City of Columbus page. Happy to inform you of any questions that you have.